I learnt to manage economic uncertainty and never-ending price hikes around the kitchen table with my grandmother. The times that we currently find so challenging are not new. They're a new twist on a similar problem that generations before us have experienced. Yes, we've had some good years in between, years so good and plentiful that people forgot the lessons which were once so ingrained that they didn't even feel like lessons at all, just a way of life. Today we're going to talk about 7 things my grandmother taught me that saved money and ensured her family and mine don't ever end up on the street. Number 6 is good for your wallet and your soul. Number 5, you can start today. Number 3 will keep you fed forever for free. And number 1, well, that's ultimately what kept my granny's family together and a roof over their head. My granny knew through observation, osmosis and ingrained habits what she needed to do as a solo mum to 5 kids in the early 50s in order to keep them together, fed, clothed and housed. These habits were so useful that they'd been passed down for generations to her and then to me. Now I pass them on to my own family. My granny ran a household where frugal wasn't a word. It was just sensible in what you did. There was no countercultural narrative in Granny's house. It was shirt sleeves up and thinking caps on. There wasn't much room for error when there were 6 mouths to feed and no support system to back you up. Number 7. My granny knew the best way to hedge against rising prices was to buy at today's price and store the rest away for next month. So when the price had risen, you were still eating at last week's, last month's, or last year's price. Today I went to the supermarket and bought some convenience foods in preparation for the rowing season. The kids eat a lot, there are countless regattas, and they're always asked to contribute snacks of some sort in addition to home baking. This year I'm getting prepared. When these products go on sale, I'm buying some and storing them away. They won't be needed for another 3 months, but when the time comes, I won't be scrambling to buy high-priced convenience foods that send my grocery budget into a spin. Little and often is what I'm aiming to do. This goes for all the products in the pantry. Shop the sales and then plan meals around what you already have. The cheapest food is what's sitting in the cupboard already. Granny taught me that if you're eating oats in August that you bought in January, you're already saving money. Number 6, don't use cash, use your skills. At times in my granny's life, there just wasn't any physical money, so she might do a favour for someone using a skill she had, like cake decorating, and this might be repaid at another time when she was short of a product or needed a service done. There was no end of generosity in my granny's day. Weekends were spent productively cultivating the garden and friendships. Jobs were shared and people lent a hand. With 5 kids, the jobs around the house were shared and often a child's labour was offered up by way of barter in order to meet the needs of the family. No tax man, no banks, just strong familial and neighbourhood relationships. The dress that was mended by one person who had a sewing machine in exchange for the icing on the wedding cake. They didn't keep tabs, just offered up their particular skill when there was a need. My granny understood what goes around comes around and was happy to wait her turn. No one went cold, hungry, or without the basics. I do this today. Whether it's sharing produce or mending someone's glove, I'm happy to help. It doesn't come with a direct exchange, and nor do I want it to. Just the relationships that are growing and a feeling that I can count on other people when I need it. Granny knew to avoid mindless consumerism at all costs. Before my granny bought anything, she would wait and see if there was another way to meet the need. And it was always a need. Wants were frivolous and almost certainly wouldn't be bought. Want a new dress? Make it. Need material? Find it in an old dress that can be recut. I'm doing that right now. I have a linen duvet with a huge hole in it. I've cut the good side out to make a summer skirt. Granny would think first, did she have something else that could do the job? Did someone else in the family? She avoided comparison, and in these modern times, I avoid social media like the plague. I'm not sure, does YouTube count? Let me know in the comments below. I think the best outfit you have is the one that you already own. Number 4, become an ingredients household. Convenience costs, And every time you buy a packet of biscuits or a pre-made pizza, you're chucking your money away. My granny knew that to survive, she would need to cook from scratch, buy the beans dried rather than in a can, and ensure that the pantry was always stocked with the basics: flour, sugar, oats, and rice. I do this today, buying the basics in bulk once a year. This ensures that no matter what may be around the corner, we can in fact eat. It would not be fancy food, but it would be food, and my granny knew that this makes all the difference when a job is lost or an unexpected expense comes through the door. The ability to rustle something up from the ingredients in the store cupboard means kids go to bed and off to school with full tummies, even in the harshest of times. Number 3 is to grow something. For cents, you can feed yourself and your family forever. 350 cents for 300 carrot seeds. A year's worth of carrots becomes carrots for the rest of your life when you let a few tops go to seed. You don't need land, a pot with tomatoes and underplanted with herbs, pumpkin seeds poked in along the driveway strip of grass. Granny's garden was the family's fruit and veg shop. Today I have rhubarb in my garden that was planted decades ago by my grandparents. It was dug up the day my granddad died, and it lived a lonely life in a pot while it waited for a more permanent home. Now, decades later, it supplements our apple crumbles throughout the winter with its vitamin K, vitamin C, and fibre. It also provides a little moment for me to remember my family on a regular basis as I lop off its great leaves and take some stalks for pudding. Number 2, no waste. Veggie scraps to make stock, plastic bags and old glass jars for storage, used nails and screws. Nothing with life left in it was wasted. This wasn't a green revolution. It was common sense not to rebuy the thing that you already owned. The average New Zealand household throws away around $1,364 worth of food every year. That's a massive $3 billion worth of food wasted nationwide, or about 80 kilograms per household. This amount of wasted food is equal to 1 year's worth of meals for 536,000 New Zealanders. Wasted food is definitely not the case in our house. Everything gets eaten either by ourselves, where last night's leftover lentil curry becomes the base for tonight's pie, the dog, the chickens, and finally the worms in the worm farm. Someone once said, the cheapest food you'll ever eat is the food you already have, and they're not wrong. Don't meal plan and buy what you need, plan around what you have. Commit to finishing everything in the fridge before you buy another. Soft or bruised fruit, make crumble, veggies gone past their best, great for soup. Waste in my granny's house was tantamount to stealing. Number 1. This is what you've been waiting for, and this is controversial in today's society, but it was how my granny kept her 5 kids together in a time when it was reasonably common for kids from struggling families to go to an orphanage or foster care for a while. My granny was a woman who stood up against tough times and won, but not by herself. Her 5 kids were an integral part of this ability to survive. They were well aware of the economic challenges that the family faced. They were well used to hearing the word no, and they were resourceful as a consequence in order to meet some of their own wants. The kids helped in the household, the garden, and in paid work. This wasn't nice to have help. This was a necessity. Granny couldn't have done it without them. This week at work, a colleague said about her kids, "I don't want them to know that we're poor." As a consequence, the answer is always yes, when it should actually be no. Despite never having experienced the economic hardships of my granny's era, I've learned all the lessons, and that is what ultimately has led our family to thrive. This is what I know about my grandmother. She was a woman who stood up against tough times and won. She didn't get beaten, and she wanted to make sure that the women of her family who came after her also knew how to win the fight against tough times. Washing out my plastic bags, eating leftovers, and raising kids with a strong work ethic doesn't make me cheap. It shows a commitment to my granny that all her hard work and sacrifices weren't for nothing. It's how I honour my family and ensure that no matter what happens, we have the knowledge and the ability to live simply and thrive no matter what the external factors are at play. I don't fear the times ahead. but I will be prepared for them.